Alright, so the last time I spoke with you guys, I showed you how to install the coilovers on the Mercedes-Benz W204. Really simple, straightforward process. Today I'm going to show you guys how to adjust the coilovers properly and how to lower your vehicle. Because as you guys can see here, I did install them, but my ride height is still too high for what I wanted. So let's go ahead and do this side by side. This is my recommendation. I don't recommend doing both sides at once because that way you guys can jack up the vehicle over here, make your adjustments, lower the vehicle, and if it looks good, then copy that over to the other side. Versus if you jack up the entire thing, you're going to be making your adjustments, putting your tires back on, lowering the whole thing, and it becomes more of a time-consuming process. So let's go ahead, jack up the car, take this tire off, and then start adjusting these coilovers. So with the vehicle safely in the air, let's talk about the components that we're going to need to adjust today. This perch, the lower perch, is what controls the height of the vehicle. The upper perch, as stated in my previous video, contains the preload. This perch, when you guys have it set up correctly, you're never going to touch it again, unless of course you guys are race car drivers, and if you are running in a circle you will want to make the front left and the rear right stiff. But in this case, let's be realistic here, none of you guys are going to be tracking your W204s, so this is all just for stance and for looks. So when you guys have the preload set, you're going to leave it alone. Those of you guys that didn't watch my video of installing the coilovers on the car, I'm going to leave the link here for you. But I'm going to go over the preload process again, just so you guys have another clear understanding of how to set it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take the lock nut, which is this one right here, and I'm going to loosen it. And then I will lower the upper perch so this is loose. This upper perch right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two spanner keys. The larger one's going to go up top and my lower one is going to go downstairs. And I'm going to go ahead and loosen all of this. So there you go. As you guys can see, the lock nut is loose. So I'm going to just take my hand and slowly bring it down like so. And then this upper perch, it's on there pretty tight because I did already have the preload on there, but this is for science of course, so let's go ahead and loosen it, and then I will show you guys how to reset your preload on there. So as you guys can see here, I have my lock nut loose, and then I also have this bottom clip down here loose. As you guys can see, I can move it by hand. So this is the beginning stages of loading your coilover. To properly adjust your front coilover, you're gonna see, as you guys can see here, it can move like that. Don't worry about that, it's always gonna be able to move in that manner, unless you guys have a rubber gasket down here on the bottom. But in this coilover manufacturer, they use these plastics, so they're always gonna be sliding around. The important part is the up and down. So as you guys can see here, I can still move up and down, and that is a no-no. You don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and preload this. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten this by hand till we get, let me loosen that some more, till we get to the point where this is not moving up and down anymore. Pretty much when you can't tighten it by hand anymore, you're right where you need to be. And that is about it. I can't tighten that anymore. So from that point forward, we're going to start to add our preload. So take your lock nut, bring it all the way up to the point where it's touching there. Now you're going to take your big spanner key and you are going to tighten this one up 4 millimeters, which is the recommended for BC coilovers, is 4 millimeters of preload. So you're going to very carefully just adjust the top one. You're not going to touch that bottom one yet. So you're going to carefully, this is a very slow process. Don't let anybody think that this is quick and easy. This is a disadvantage to coilovers. The thing is, when you can do so many things to your suspension, you're adding on more and more processes that you have to work with. Now, as you guys can see there, I'm almost able to fit my spanner in between the two. When it can fit comfortably between the two, that is 4 millimeters of preload, because that is the thickness of this spanner key. And that is almost there. Maybe one more twist and we'll be there. There you go. As you guys can see, it fit in there snugly. It's able to get in there. So that is the 4 millimeters of preload. So now I'm going to take my lock, bring it all the way up, and then I'm going to lock these two together, and that is going to be my preload set from the company. And that is something, like I said, you don't want to mess with that. The companies go through a lot of time and a lot of engineering figuring out the weight of these cars, and they know what the preloads should be on the cars. So you're just going to go ahead and tighten that up. And there you go. That is on there tight. So now with that in position, we can start to adjust our height of our vehicle. And we are going to do that with this bottom perch, this bottom lock nut. So we're going to go ahead and loosen that, and we're going to bring this up a bit so that way our tire tucks in more into the car. This is what's going to adjust our ride height. So let's go ahead and take our key and loosen this. So right there I have a 4 millimeter drop. So to lower the vehicle, I'm going to go ahead and grab the top perch over here, and I'm going to twist it downward to bring this to a point where it locks in by itself. And that is actually raising it. Let's try the other way. There we go. And then you guys want to make sure you guys lock this little guy into place. Alright, so he is in there nice and tight. If you really wanted to at this point, you guys could take a measurement of this over here and replicate it on the other side after you guys have your preload. So let's go ahead, put the tire on, lower the car, and see just how much did we change the height. So by using a digital caliper like this, I'm able to get the exact measurement between my two perches, and as you guys can see here, it's 93.32. So after I figure out if this is the ride height that I like, I'll simply go over to my passenger side and replicate the exact same process over there. Keep in mind, sometimes your preload may throw things off a millimeter or two at tops. You shouldn't have a big discrepancy. For instance, this was 93 here. On the other side, there's no reason why that should be over 95, because the preload is going to be dependent on my feel. It is going to be judged by me feeling, saying, okay, that's as tight as I can get it. That side could be a little bit different. Don't freak out. I'm just telling you guys that right now. I know some people are anal and they like to count all these little rings. That's a little bit eccentric, and no one really practically does that. I mean, unless you're super anal and you guys are racing it, like I said, and you guys are checking, oh, I need that millimeter of clearance on this side. Okay, all right, I back off for 2 seconds. But this is the general process of it. So now I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm going to put the tire on, drop the vehicle, and see if I like the appearance. And check that out. Look at how much lower it has gone. Just by making that little bit of adjustment, I'm down to 1 inch tops of clearance of tucking that tire. So if just a little bit more, I'm going to have the look that I want, and I want that nice tucked look. So I'm just going to go ahead, make my final adjustments on this, copy it on the other side, and that is it. It is that simple. So let me go ahead and cut to the end, and I'll show you guys what my finished front end looks like. And of course, next time I see you guys, we will be doing the rears, and I'll explain that whole process in full detail, just like I've done over here.